and good morning. And if it isn't morning wherever you are, then hello. Today I'm going to talk to you about strategy. Now, there's lots of talk about strategy, and sometimes it's a word that is meaningless to people. So I'm going to explain what I mean. Strategy is your roadmap, right? So if you were going to go on a journey and you were going to jump in your car and leave where you are now and arrive somewhere else a little while later, and you didn't know where you were going, you would need a map. And the first time you went to the places that you do know, you also needed a map. And in the old days, before we had technology that makes our car tell us where to go or our phone tell us where to go, our maps were actually on a piece of paper, and you could actually see the entire journey in advance, right? The problem with modern technology, in my view, and I actually do have this problem when I'm trying to use my car or my phone to tell me where to go, is that they only show me the next step. I actually want to be able to map out the entire journey so that I know what steps are coming. That's why I refer to the good old days when we had the paper maps, because you actually look at your journey before you head out. Now, when I was learning to drive, I would then write down on a piece of paper the junctions that I need to change and the journey I need to take, and I would have my map with me so that if I got stuck, I could refer to the map, but I had notes written on a piece of paper that were easier. And of course, nowadays we use our phones and our cars, which tell us what the next thing is, right? And they tell us how far away we are from our destination, so we know approximately when we're going to arrive. So translate that to your business. So some of you know where you are. Actually, it's possible that some of you aren't even clear where you are, but assuming you know where you are, some of you don't know where you're going to go because you don't know what kind of a business you want to run or what kind of things you could be doing to earn extra money from home. And I've talked about that before. And if you want me to go into more detail about that, the different options that there are, let me know, because I can do that here. Or you can book a brainstorming session with me and we can do that one-on-one if you like. That's free. I don't charge for those. So once you've established where you're going to go, you will have a target that has a time attached to it. So for example, you might say, I'm going to be a copywriter and I'm going to need to be earning $5,000 a month by the end of 6 months, say, for example. So that would mean that the end of your journey or the place on your map that you're traveling to is $5,000 a month in 6 months' time. And your strategy is the route that you take to get there. So what might that route be? Well, it could be, if you're going to be a copywriter, that you connect with all sorts of people who create something that's written that you could participate in. So you might connect with some of the big, really busy bloggers and that are in your area of interest and say, I want to write. You know, you're probably too busy to write all the material that you're writing, so can I be on your team and write? Or you can apply to agencies that find work for people who write. There are lots of them. And then there are the easy ones that most people know about, where you can find anybody, including writers, which would be things like Fiverr and Upwork. And Fiverr might originally have started charging people $5 to do something, but don't be put off. You won't have to create loads and loads of writing for just $5. You can earn as much money there as you can on Upwork, especially once you've done a few gigs. I did some stuff on Fiverr a long time ago. I was an accountability coach, and I also did a translation. I actually translated a memoir from German into English. And that ended up being about 60,000 words. And I got paid a lot more than a £5 for that. So don't be put off by the name. But things like Fiverr and Upwork are websites that you can register yourself. You can say what you do and people can find you. Or when people post a job or a gig, it's called, on those places, you can apply to them or apply for them for those positions and get work that way. And then as you level up, definitely, no, on both of them, as you level up, the more work you do, the better reviews you have, the higher up the search engine you will come, so that when people first look for copywriters, you'll be way down at the bottom of the list. But the more work you do and the better reviews you get, the higher up on the list you'll be. So eventually, when people look for copywriters in whatever platform it is, you'll be one of the top few because you're that good. And people measure you on all sorts of things. So that could be another strategy. Another strategy could be reaching out to other business people, going to networking events and asking people if they need help with their blogs or writing a book or whatever it is that they need to do. Or you could apply to marketing companies if you want to write promotional material as well. Find out where you want to be and then work your strategy from there. So finding out where you want to be isn't so easy. I was talking to someone a couple of days ago who sells skincare products, and she said that her audience is everybody because everybody's got skin. Well, yes, everybody does have skin, and everybody does have hair, and everybody does wear clothes. So if you're selling skincare products or hair care products or clothes, it does not mean that your audience is potentially everybody. For example, if I was trying to sell shampoo to people who have African blood in them, so they have very, very tight curly hair, I would not be able to help them and advise them and guide them because I have no experience about that kind of hair. I have dead straight, lifeless hair. So somebody who's got masses of curls or, you know, frizzy hair or has it braided all the time or something, I can't help them. So even though I'm selling hair care products, they're not my audience, right? In the same way that if I'm selling clothes, I would not be a good person to sell clothes to a teenager, a teenage boy, for example, even worse, or people who, well, anyway, you know where I'm going with this. There are people who are my audience because my experience and my knowledge is in their area, or it isn't. And if it isn't, I can't help them because everybody's looking for a solution, right? When you present a product to somebody, their immediate question is, what is this going to do for me? And if you can communicate with that person and explain the benefits to them, they are your audience, right? So if you can explain the benefits of a hair care product to someone and they think, yeah, that's my product, then they're your audience. So if I was talking hair care to my friend Miriam in Texas, I don't think the message would get across because she is from Uganda and she has frizzy hair, and I don't know the kind of problems that she's dealing with, so I can't help her, right? Just like anyone who has experience that I don't have, I can't really help. So when I started working in the States in my marketing company, and I thought I can help business owners, It turns out I can't help all business owners. It turns out that there are certain types of business owners that I can help. And later I established that I resonate really well with mums who are juggling kids and are looking for something to do from home. And then that expanded into any kind of a home-based solo entrepreneur kind of business, right? Because I do work with men as well. It's not exclusively women. And yes, I work with some people who've got an office somewhere. But if I talk to people in that area, they're more likely to be able to understand me, and I'm more likely to be able to understand them than if I was to try and go after corporate clients, because it's been a long time since I worked in corporate that was also in a completely different country, and I'm not going to have the language communication skills that are needed for that area. So look at what your business is. If you're a copywriter, for example, you can't write for anybody who needs writing, because people will be writing about subjects that you know really well, and people will be writing about subjects that you've got no idea about. So figure out what subjects are of interest to you, and that is your area. And the more you narrow it down at the beginning, the better. You can always expand later on, but in order to make money, sorry, you need to narrow it down a little bit. Excuse me. There we go. Didn't even help. Yes, there it did. So figure out who you're going to talk to, who your audience is. Then when you figured out who your audience is, you know how to talk to them, because that's the way you normally talk. Now, there are lots of people in the same field and the same area that I work in. And there are millions of people on this planet. So I don't worry that there aren't enough people for me to support and help, because I know there are, even though there are hundreds and possibly thousands of people who are presenting the same kind of material that I'm presenting, who are going through the same processes that I'm going through. But some people prefer to work with a mum who's also juggling a child and looking after a kid at home and not wanting to work 23 hours a day, right? Or they might resonate more with me because I'm English, or they might resonate more with me because I'm slightly older and I've got more experience. Or they might think that they like listening to me because I tell nice stories. Or they might think that they like to listen to me because I break everything down into steps that they can follow. Or just because they like my personality. All those things help me figure out who my best client is, some people call it avatar. I'm not sure why, but some people call it avatar. Some people call it audience. It's basically the person who's going to listen to you the easiest when you sell to them, right? So that's the next step. You figure out what business you're going to be in. Then you figure out who you're going to talk to. And then you figure out how much you're going to charge, because that's an important part. And most people undercharge by a lot. So whatever it is you think you're going to charge, you can probably double it. Yes, I said double it. If you've got any concerns about that, again, book a time with me. You can email me at Andrea at MyHomeBiz.TIPS. That'll be on the screen in a minute. Or you can go to the website, MyHomeBiz.TIPS, and you can send me an email. You can talk to me on email about what it is you want. You can even send me a little video. So the email address again, Andrea at MyHomeBiz.TIPS, or you can go to the website, which is www.myhomebiz.tips, and you can say, I need help, and we can spend some time talking. I also have a calendar. You can go directly to my calendar, which is www.calendly.com/Andrea Koochin. I think we've got that to put up on the screen as well. But there are lots of different ways of reaching me. So if you can't answer the questions I'm asking you, then you're going to need a little bit of support figuring out your strategy, right? And I can help you with that with a brainstorming session. And there is no charge for that at all. So figure out what business you want to be in. Figure out who your ideal audience is going to be. Your first audience that you're going to start with, which is where you feel most comfortable. Because you also then avoid the problem of being rejected too much. And being rejected is hard. And you want to make this as easy as possible, right? So then you figure out how you're going to talk to them. Are they sitting in LinkedIn, which if you're looking for business people is a good chance? Are they in Facebook? Are they all over Instagram? Would it be better to join a networking group online to connect with people there? You choose. I can't tell you what would be best, but I can tell you what options there are and who's in those places, and we can brainstorm something. Then you want to work out what you want to say. And what you want to say will depend a little bit on what it is that you're selling. But don't get too stuck on what you're selling first. You need to establish who you're selling to first. I know that might sound like it's backwards, but it isn't, because who you're selling to, like I said, depends a lot on who you are. Less on what you're selling, believe it or not, because in this day and age, what we're selling depends on us. I was again talking to someone a few days ago who is transitioning from being an employee to being an entrepreneur. And she's very high-end employee, so she needs to make a lot of money as an entrepreneur in order to replace her income. And she's already got her business up and she's already got clients, but she's incognito. She's not using her personality to sell herself. So she's made it more difficult for herself. So your personality will sell for you. So that's why you need to figure out who you're going to sell to before you figure out what you're going to sell. So you figure out who you're going to sell to, how you're going to sell it to them, and then you figure out what you're going to sell, right? And then you figure out your day-to-day strategy. Your day-to-day strategy comes from your communication and the path that you've chosen. So say you were doing the copywriting and say you were going to reach out to people on LinkedIn. You would figure out how many people you need to communicate with in order to get the results you're looking for. So say you were looking for 5,000 a month. How much are you going to sell your product for? How many hours or how many words or how many articles or whatever it is that you're going to do in order to get you to that 5,000 a month goal? So how many clients you need. And in order to figure out how many clients you need to talk to in order to close that many clients, you work backwards. So you figure out, based on what you're going to be charging, how many people you need to have paying you that amount, right? Then you need to figure out, and this is done by experiment. None of this happens overnight. There is a process, and you'll make mistakes. We all made mistakes. But if you have somebody helping you and supporting you, you're going to make fewer mistakes and you're going to get there faster. Because you're going to map out how many people you need to talk to in order to close them as clients. Then you figure out how many people you need to present your idea to in order to get them to talk to you in order to close them, right? And you work backwards, and that will eventually give you your day-by-day structure for your business, right? So you'll know that every single day you have to reach out to 15 people on LinkedIn, make new connections, and introduce yourself to them and show them over a course of a conversation, which we can script out because it's all text messages. So we can have that all scripted out. What you say to them, how often you talk to them, what else you're doing at the same time, because obviously you're going to be building an online presence one way and another. You're going to be writing stuff because writing is your thing. So the more you write, you need a website with articles on. You can present your articles on LinkedIn that people can also find on your website. So if they've seen something on LinkedIn they like, and they go to your website, there's a lot more of a similar material, which is going to convince them that you're the right person to work for them. You will know that you need to write 1 article a week or 2 articles a week, and you're going to do those on a Tuesday and a Thursday, or a Monday and a Wednesday, or a Tuesday and a Saturday, or whatever it is you're going to do, depending on when you're doing it. And then you'll figure out that maybe it would be a good idea to spend an afternoon every month writing all these articles so that you can then post them out when they're ready. Something like that. But you will, by the end of the process, and you don't need me to do this, you can do it yourself. So don't be put off by the fact that you have to have somebody there with you, because you don't. It's just that if you do need help, I can help you with this. So you break it down. How many people do you need to close? In other words, how many clients do you need to sign up to make the money that you want to make? How many people do you need to introduce yourself to in order to get into a conversation that will enable you to close a client? How many people do you need to connect with in order to start conversations with some of them? Because you won't be able to have conversations with everybody, but you'll be able to have great conversations with some of them. And then how do you even start a conversation? Please don't be the person that bombards people in LinkedIn saying, hey, I'm the best copywriter you've ever met. Let's talk. Because that's not the right way to introduce a conversation. Imagine it's a little bit like dating, right? How would you approach a person that you were interested in dating? It's exactly the same process. It's a gentle lead up. That is, if you want a real relationship with that person. If you want a one-night stand, it's different. But in business, you don't want a one-night stand, right? So look at it like courting. There's a to and fro. You know, you contact that person, you wait for them to call you back. How do you respond if they don't call you back? That it's exactly the same dance. And once you have a strategy in place, your emotional reaction to what's happening will be reduced. So if, for example, you've given this guy your number and he hasn't called you, it's very upsetting, right? The panic sets in. You know, he hasn't called. How long do I wait till I call him? Can I even call him? How do I make it so that I bump into him again at such and such an event so that I can talk to him again without seeming pushy, right? All those questions will come up. It's exactly the same thing. You know, I met that lead at that networking event. She seemed absolutely perfect. And she asked for my information. And now I don't know what to do because I haven't heard from her or him or whoever it is, right? The more people you're connecting with, the less that matters. Because if you went to a networking event and you met one potential client, then your business depends on that one potential client. But if you met 10, or you're in so many different groups inside your networking, inside Facebook, and connecting with so many different people inside LinkedIn, that finding 10 people is easy or 50 people is easy, then you're not stressed out because one person hasn't called you back. You see how that works? It's a numbers game ultimately, unfortunately, but that's the way the universe works, right? If you're a farmer and you have a small field, there's more pressure for that one field to produce a perfect crop. If you have twice as much field space or 4 times as much, obviously you're going to be able to produce 4 times as much crop of whatever it is that you're producing and selling, not manufacturing, and producing and selling, right? So obviously, now when you're a farmer, you're going to have to pay 4 times as much for that as well, which could affect your margins, your profit margins, but that gets factored in, right? So don't worry about that either. When it comes to networking, when it comes to connecting with people on LinkedIn, and this is only an example, remember, because we're going with the example of the person who wants to be a copywriter, it's not going to cost you more money in order to connect to more people. It is going to take a little bit more time. So part of your strategy is going to be how many hours of your week, and I'm, imagining a Google Calendar in front of me here. There's an hour there on a Monday afternoon, or there's an hour there on a Wednesday morning, or whatever it is, right? So you're going to be putting aside time to deal with those things. It's going to take more time, but it's not going to cost you more money. So when you start out, you don't have that stress. So when you have a strategy, when you have a clear map of where you're going, it not only brings more people to you, but it reduces the level of stress that you experience. Really, it really does. And that's very, very important, especially when you're starting out. Because if you get overstressed, that's going to make you possibly feel like it's not worth it. And it is worth it. It isn't easy, but it is worth it, because the freedom that you get from making the money that you decided you were going to make while you're working from home and juggling all the other things that you need to juggle, like maybe a part-time job, or maybe a full-time job, or maybe kids, or maybe other commitments you've got. And a lot of us are homeschooling now, or have our kids at home during the day at school that we didn't expect to do. So there's all those things, but it will be worth it. And it'll be worth it because you're following your dream. And that's got to be worth it above anything else. So the way to get to your dream, which is, after all, ultimately the final destination that you're looking at on the map, the final destination is your ultimate dream, right? Not only to be a copywriter, but to be an author and to have written best-selling books, or to have an agency of copywriters who are the best on the planet, or whatever it is. That dream, that goal, is your ultimate destination. And the journey there is going to be a winding road. And your strategy is your roadmap. And that roadmap is going to make the road a little bit easier, because you'll know before the big hills that you need to have the right boots and maybe walking sticks to help you. You'll also know on the slopes that come what you'll need to work on them. You'll know when you need to camp for the night, all that kind of stuff in advance, so you'll be prepared. And that makes the world of difference. So does anyone have any questions, or does anyone have any ideas about something that they specifically want to go into in further detail? Because I can drill down in another Tuesday training on how to find the opportunities that you're looking for, or the businesses that you're looking for, or how to turn your hobby into a business. I can also drill down on breaking your strategy down, figuring out who your ideal audience is, or how to do something on the side for residual income that you can automate more easily. Should I research how to do Facebook or Google ads to promote myself? Not at the beginning. At the beginning, you don't want to pay for advertising, because there are so many opportunities to connect with people that don't cost money. Let's start there, because once you start paying money to grow your business, that's a stress. That's a stressor to spend a lot of money. Even if you're working and you have spare money, it's best to put it into other things. It would be best to create a good website, or to start a YouTube channel or something like that, than spend the money on advertising. In fact, if you've got spare cash, hire a VA. Hire somebody who can do some of the stuff you can't, because if you've got spare cash, you're probably employed, or you're working at something that's already bringing in money, which means you've got less time. which means that a VA would be the best thing. That's what I would recommend. Advertising can come later. Definitely research how to use Facebook if Facebook is likely to be where your audience is. But start with one place. Start with one audience in one place. Become an expert at that. That'll give you enough to start. Then when you've got money coming into your business, you can expand, you can hire a VA, you can go to other social media platforms. Even if you just have a VA duplicate in Facebook and Instagram everything you're doing on LinkedIn, you'll grow your business. That would be better than advertising. That's my viewpoint. Okay, so I talked about finding the right work for you, because it has to be something you love, because then you'll be motivated to do it. I talked about how important it is to narrow down your audience so that you're not trying to talk to everybody, even though everybody drinks water and you're selling water. Yes, they do, but not everybody is going to want your water. And even if they wanted your water, the hard truth is they're not necessarily going to want it from you. But luckily, there are so many millions of people out there that you can communicate with on social media and digitally that you wouldn't have had access before, that it doesn't matter. Never think there isn't going to be a big enough audience, because there always is going to be. You just need to narrow it down to get started. And then find out where your audience is so that you can connect with them in the location that they're at. And focus on that first. And that will get you to a good place in the first 90 days, right? Break down the number of people that you need to communicate with in order to get on your program to make the money that you want to make, and break down the steps that you need to take so that eventually you'll have every day a list of things to do that will make it so much easier, because you won't have to think. And that is about it, because less thinking and less stress frees up your mind for all the gorgeous creative stuff that you can do, because running a business is a very creative thing as well. So that's it for today. I've gone on a little longer than I thought. Do reach out to me at my email address, Andrea@MyHomeBiz.TIPS, if you need support and help, because I'm quite happy to email as well, or book a session with me. So that's it. Enjoy the rest of your day. I will see you here, same time, same place next week. Thank you. Bye-bye.